I wish there were palm trees on 495. I wish there were palm trees.
So right out of the gate, you guys walk in and I tell you I'm on a diet and have been for 8 days. And the main thing about a diet is no pizza, no bread, no pasta. And you line up 3 heroes right where I have to stare at them. You're really doing a good job of getting in my good graces.
Well, Jackie told us to bring you lunch, so what did you expect?
No, I said we're going to lunch. I was going to make you buy a bowl of soup and give Bridget some business and introduce you to Bayville.
Oh, going to lunch. You didn't hear that right.
I didn't
You're
get-
a reporter.
Yeah, I didn't read that.
Yeah,
Accuracy is
I
supposed to be
can't
your
wait
thing.
to see his details. All right, now tell me what we're doing and who you guys are.
This is called the 495 Podcast. We try to tape weekly, and it's part of the Greater Long Island Media Group, which
is
chain of community news websites.
Is
all
that
in Suffolk County right now.
Steve Oliver and WGBB and all those out there?
Unaffiliated,
No.
independent news website.
Frank McKay.
Yeah, no, that's unaffiliated, but those are friends of mine.
That's
Oh,
a
you just
radio
know those
station.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Okay.
know those guys.
So this isn't, wow, who's the guy that owns every,
John.
John Cracchiola.
This is him?
No.
No.
Oh.
This is us.
This is us. This
Greater New York Media.
is Greater Long Island. Close enough.
Greater Long,
Greater
maybe
Long
Greater New York one day.
Yeah, one day.
So 495, that's also the number of the expressway. Is that a coincidence?
Yeah,
that's
that
all-
was a coincidence, really. We pulled that out of
Okay.
the lottery machine.
Because that's funny. So this is the Greater New York Media, and we're live on Facebook, but you're also taping it
Yes.
for a podcast.
Exactly.
Correct.
We're
Okay,
up to
now
date.
who are you?
I'm Mike White, formerly of the Daily News and the New York Post. I started the company, and
You started the New York Post? I thought it was Hamilton.
Hamilton, yes.
You know, I'm going to be doing all kinds of I watched
good.
Airplane last night.
You're in an airplane mood.
You're taking everything literal, which is so funny. So you started
Love
this Greater Long Island, Greater
Yeah.
Bayville Media.
In 2015 in Patchogue.
What'd you do at the Post?
I was a street reporter at the Post.
What'd you get fired? They caught you telling the truth?
That's right. Yeah. When the news breaks, we fix it.
And the Daily News.
And then went over to the Daily News. I was
I
in the
love those
police bureau.
papers. They've always been fun. Always
Yeah,
been fun.
Absolutely.
I met Mike a couple years back. I worked for LI News Radio, which, Jay Oliver and Frank McKay, the guys you mentioned before. And then I also worked for News 12. And then I did some freelance writing. And now we kind of teamed up to...
So you guys started this? Is this a non-profit?
No, it's for profit.
So you're trying to make a buck.
Yeah, we're
You're
trying
just
to
not
make
making
money.
any money.
Yeah, that's right.
The first time I got interviewed for Long Island, whatever, I don't even think, was it News 12? We lived down the street in Bayville in a rented house. And I got to tell you, I was excited. I'd been a comedian for like 10 minutes. And they were coming to the house, just like you guys. And no cell phones or anything. And the guy was ready to interview me, and I had him in my studio, and this is where I just had put out my first record. No, I actually had a couple of records out by then, and I had started Governor's Comedy Shop, and it was exciting to be on News 12 or whatever it was. And I was excited, and my girlfriend at the time, who became my wife, and now she's not my wife anymore, we were psyched. And the guy shows up, and he's about to start the interview, and he got a beep. That's what happened in those days. You got a beep. So he said, "Can I use your phone?" He calls in. And he had to not interview me and go back to wherever
Breaking news?
a truckload of mayonnaise
Oh, gosh.
fell over on the highway. An entire Long Island Expressway was completely covered in mayonnaise. And I'm like, of all the things to get bumped for, it's like jizz all over. I never forgot. The guy came up to me 5 or 10 years ago and said, "Hey, you might not remember me. I was supposed to interview you." "Oh, no, are you the jizz guy?"
Oh,
So-
you remember that.
You don't forget that. So this is the Greater Long Island Media.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Okay.
run websites out of Patchogue, Port Jeff, Babylon, and Bayshore.
And then hopefully one day Bayville.
Oh, yeah, we were just talking about that. That would be like a greater Syosset, we were thinking. The Woodbury, Syosset,
There's
Plainview,
all
Bayville.
kinds of stuff here. I just, you ever hear the Mansion in Glen Cove?
Yeah.
They just opened a great steak restaurant there.
Awesome.
A friend of mine, and she just wrote to me today and said, "Can you help me promote this?" And I said, "Are you ready to spend any money?" "Hello, are you ready?" I never heard back.
It's usually how it goes.
No, I'm kidding. But That's the kind of place you could broadcast from there or something like. The North Shore needs you.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank
did you go to Epi at my father's place?
No.
That's what you do. I'll hook you guys all up. I'll
All
hook
right.
you, because you can help me. Because when I do a show on Long Island,
You could say Jackie's playing here.
You know, I usually sell out, but it's always great to have, you know, the more exposure, the better. You know, if
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
call Newsday one more time, you know, if you're Newsday once every, you know, once a year or once every 2 years, that means I've been in there 80 times, you know, so they're kind of sick of me. So how are you in different towns if it's a podcast?
Well, it's not. It's a news website actually, and we have this podcast to supplement.
Oh, so when you go to the Patchogue page, it's Patchogue News, and
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just you two
And the
guys. You got
surrounding
some hot
areas.
broads working for you.
Not yet. That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Are you married?
Right now, no. I have a girlfriend.
Are you married?
No.
He's engaged.
But I'm
this guy.
engaged.
So you're not homos either.
Yeah, I know. No.
So that's good. So it sounds like it's very enterprising, and I applaud you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I mean, we just hit this year. We just did 2.1 million views across all 4 of our sites. So that was a nice milestone. It's our best year ever to date. So that was cool.
Yeah, we're hoping.
So how long you been at this?
2015, July 2015, we
Oh,
launched.
so good.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, so let's flip the script on you a little bit. Tell us a little bit
My
about...
girlfriend said, "Who's coming out?" My girlfriend Barbara Klein works for Omnipop Enterprises. It doesn't work for her. She's an owner of Omnipop Enterprises, and she's just wonderful. I said, I think the kid's from Hofstra. 'Cause they, you know, people say they want to do an interview. I say, okay. And then I say, I don't know. And then I just say yes. I say, you know what? When they get here, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and here we are.
He gets too crazy. Tomorrow I'm talking to Belfast,
Okay.
which is very exciting. It's a little town in Suffolk. I'm only kidding. I'm talking to Ireland. I'm talking to Ireland tomorrow, which is exciting.
So what do you mean you're talking to them?
I'm doing a podcast. The guy's calling from Ireland.
Wow, you got a big audience out there?
3.
Okay, it's big enough. That's bigger than our
He
audience.
says that people love my jokes over there, and I don't know if he's kidding. You know, I just did a show in Boca Saturday, and my cousin brought a whole bunch of people. My cousin is from here, and one of his friends is a pilot, and his girlfriend flew from London.
Wow.
Just to see the show, and she was blown away. And she said, "You come to London?" I said, "Well, I've been wanting to go to London for 40 years, but get me a booking." So she's, "Oh, good, you had booking."
Oh, very
And
nice.
she's cute, so I don't care if there's 3 people.
Are you going to be doing some shows in Ireland too? This means.
I would love to.
Yeah.
You know, I have no idea. I have no idea how it would translate. Have you ever heard an Irish comedian? You can't understand. The
Yeah.
words. But by the time you understand it, it's very funny. But it'd be interesting.
So it sounds like you haven't done that many acts overseas.
No, I've done nothing overseas.
Wow.
You know.
Now the jokes you pop at 420 every day on Twitter are those new jokes? Those old jokes?
No, those. And all my jokes are old jokes. Except once in a blue moon, I write something
You like Bob Dylan?
filthy
He's
and disgusting.
unable to write anymore? How's that work?
No, I just never. I was always a guy that just tells jokes. The
Okay.
jokes that you heard your whole life, just nobody remembers them, and I remember them all.
Yeah,
But I'm a funny guy, you know. Everything I wrote for Howard for 15 years was
that's off the cuff,
right
right during the
off
show.
the top of my head. I've been texting back and forth with Richard Lewis for the last couple of days. We're just peeing our pants, you know. We started out as a serious discussion, like how the hell can we help Artie Lang, and nobody knows what the hell to do.
Yeah.
And then you only can get so far into that before you start fooling around, you know.
I would love to see screenshots of that whole thread with you.
Oh, it's a piss.
How does a joke come to you? You just like in the shower, and it just like pops in your mind? Are you writing stuff down all the time?
Well, like working with Howard, it was like the way that worked
Yeah, I was always
is
curious
imagine
about
you're
this.
Howard and you're Robin, okay, and you're funny, or you're. It's an interesting conversation, and I'm a funny guy, okay. So I'm sitting here, and you're talking to Robin, and then you say a few things, and in the course of what you're talking about, I think of something very funny to say. Instead of saying it, I write it down and put it in front of you, and you work it in.
Pop it.
So not only do you have your sense of humor, you have my sense of humor. And by being there, I enabled Fred Norris to be able to write things and pass them to me. So Howard not only had his sense of humor, he had mine and Fred's. So he not only had 3 senses of humor, they were from 3 completely different places.
Right.
Fred was from Pluto,
Wow.
and I'm a punchline guy, and Howard's just broad. And you didn't know where the jokes could be stupid, funny, smart, and it just blew people away for years and
So
years.
was
and
anyone
years.
doing that in radio at the time?
No, as far as I know, nobody had ever done that. What in
Feeding
the old
jokes in
in
real
the old
time.
days, like Bob Hope and them, they'd be talking and they go to commercial, and the writers are really
scripts.
quick, try to come up with lines to outdo each other and everything. But as far as doing it on the fly, I don't think so. And when I started getting interviewed, I used to say it was flying gag writing, which is what it was.
Yeah.
And everybody broke, oh, flying gag writer, blah, blah, blah. But that's exactly what it was. And for years and years, nobody had any idea I was doing it. And to this day, there are people that had no idea. Because I'm sitting there and I'm laughing and I'm getting my balls broke. So that was almost enough to justify me being there. Yeah. And they have no idea. Half of the horrible crap he said to me.
You can curse.
Half of the horrible crap he said to me, I wrote. And that's hard for people to wrap their brains around. When the Jackie puppet used to attack me, I was writing stuff for Billy to say. Billy said it was like working in the Twilight Zone. It was so much fun.
Now, is that common in the industry now? Joke writers on the fly?
I'm sure it is. And you know what? To tell you the truth, I didn't walk around to all the radio stations. For all I know, they've been doing this forever. But as far as I could tell, nobody ever said, wait a minute, Harry did that first, Because most disc jockeys are such egomaniacs that they don't think they would ever need help. There's nothing funnier. When comedy started, or not started, but when we first got when it first got going in the early 80s, and the comedy clubs started popping up. We did a comedy here on Long Island at a bar in Huntington, and that developed into the East Side Comedy Club, and then I started Governors and the Brokerage, and comedy clubs popping up around the country. And they would send 3 comics, from New York City or wherever, and we'd go to whatever town, and there'd just be 3 comics. There wasn't a headliner and a middle act and an opener, it was just 3 comics. And then they got to it, you know what? We don't need 3 comics. We can have an MC and a middle act and a headliner and pay them differently. And then, of course, somebody came up with the bright idea, hey, get a local disc jockey to come host Wednesday night. This is great. You get to live.
Yeah, the doomsday whistle.
Yeah, I got
Does
the
this
firehouse.
mean the bridge is closed?
Firehouse at the end of the block.
I hope you got a boat to escape.
Bridge is underwater.
No, I'm a swimmer.
All right.
Never.
It's a long swim.
So don't screw up my story. So they decide Wednesday night they'll have the local disc jockey come. That way the disc jockey will promote the shows. Everybody wins. And disc jockeys, their whole lives, everybody they come in contact with is somebody they can help. You're a car salesman. I mean, you got a car dealership or you have a pizzeria and you say, Jackie, you're the funniest guy in the world. Oh, I saw Joe from Charlie's Pizza. It was a, sycophantic thing. And so all they knew their whole lives is how funny they are, how unbelievably they're the best personality in the world. And they couldn't wait to get to the comedy club to host the night that they're going to be there. And I watched so many disc jockeys get up there. They couldn't wait to get up there and say fuck and talk to the people. And it was amazing how fast they found out how hard it is. Like within minutes, they had such respect for the comics because it's so hard. And they're so used to everybody just hello, how you doing? Oh, Charlie, you're so funny, And they would just die because they were all such crazy egomaniacs. And when I first started like giving an idea to Howard, he kind of looked at me like I had 2 heads. Like he used to do a black helicopter traffic reporter called Mama Looka Boo Boo Day. And he did it with a megaphone. Hello, how you doing? Mama Looka, blah, 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 blah. And after I was there a week or 2, the next time I came in, I said, hey, I got some ideas for Mama Looka. And he kind of looked at me like I was from Pluto, like I need your help.
Yeah.
And then I listened like during the week, and all of a sudden I heard the jokes were popped in there. And then like the next week I came in and said, hey, here's some stuff for Mama Look. And he's like, thank you. That was very subtle. And it just made him funnier. And over the course of I worked there for free for 3 years.
Right, that was
from 83 to 86 at NBC. And
you
I
were
would
like once a week guest?
Yeah, and slowly hand him a note here and there, and he became more and more to where, and then all of a sudden when we moved to K-Rock, they actually had a place for me to sit and a place for me to write, and I was still once a week. And it's really funny because I made millions of dollars with that show. And my entire job description, he called me on the road. I was in Virginia Beach Comedy Club, and he called me on the road and said, we're going to mornings. I want you to be a part of the team and come in and do your thing with the notes. That was my job description for all the millions of dollars. Do your thing
Do
with
the
the
note
notes.
thing.
And I came in and did my thing with the notes, and we went to Pluto.
So how did you meet up with Howard Stern and those guys?
I was working in Washington D.C. at Garvin's Comedy Club, and the owner said, hey, there's a crazy man that just got fired here. He's a disc jockey, and he's going to NBC in New York. You really should look him up. And I blindly mailed my 3 comedy LPs. And he got them, and a couple months later, he called up and said, hey, we got your albums. You know every joke in the world. You want to come in today, hang out on the air? I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
I went into I went into WNBC, 30 Rock. Holy,
Were you
I'm used to
nervous?
governors. No, not nervous,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what to expect. It's all in my book. That first day it was amazing. I walk in, there's big pictures of Carson and Letterman and Imus and I wasn't intimidated because I had no idea where I was going. I didn't know anything about radio or Howard Stern.
Did you ever want to be on the radio? Like, did you ever think about
Well,
that?
I was on BAB a lot of times, but that's how my 516-9221 is my dirty joke line, which is officially 40 years old this month. And it's still going.
Happy
remember
birthday.
this.
Happy birthday.
It freaks people out. And Bob Buckman, there was a guy who worked on Saturdays who said, Jackie, why don't you let me call 922 Wine, make it not so dirty? I said, all right. So Brian Battles would call me on Saturday, and people would go wild. And then Bob Buckman was the morning man, and he was the program director, and he's like, wait, I'll help myself, which is what they do. And so every day I would make a special 922 Wine recording that wasn't as dirty as the normal one, and it was a line at my house, and he would say, all right, we're going to call Jackie Martling, 516-922 Wine, and he'd call, and the jokes would be almost dirty, and then I'd insult him and insult Perry Apollo, and when I started getting too outrageous, he'd set a bomb off and then go into the number 1 rock and roll record that week. And his ratings went through the roof. They were all already pretty high, and that really put me on the map. So, but that wasn't by design. I didn't go in and sit on the radio.
Right.
I went on the radio when I went on the road. You sit in with a disc jockey or something like that, but that was only a means to an end to get people in the show. But it was funny because the first day Stuttering John walked in, Gary came in and said, hey, Howard, there's a guy who wants to work on the show. He has a stutter. And Howard said, hire him. John walked in and he looked at me. He said, you're the guy from BAB.
Is he a Long Island guy too?
Massapequa, sure.
Yeah. What is it about Long Island and comedians? Some of the
It's the
funniest
salt
people in
water.
history.
It's the salt water that makes everybody horny and crazy.
It's not just the proximity.
Is that why
to
you
the
live on the
city.
water?
Yeah, sure.
You gotta stay horny and crazy.
No, but the water's the greatest. I spent 7 years in Michigan, and I never felt like I was from Michigan. They say, "Where are you from?" I'm New York. You haven't been in No, I live in New York.
So it's not just the proximity to Manhattan. I mean, some of the greatest
No.
comics of all time have come from Long Island.
It's smart and fast, and everybody's a wise guy. You go out on the street and start talking to somebody, they're funnier than any 30 people you can
Oh,
hear.
the guy at the
Well,
deli was killing us this morning. Man.
Oh, who, Joe? Big Joe or Richie? Is,
Oh, the
I
guy
didn't
with
know his name.
slick back
Slick
hair.
back hair.
Oh, yeah, that's Richie.
He was
Did you
making fun of
did
everybody.
You were coming here?
I didn't want to name drop.
Oh, he would have went nuts.
Yeah, he's busting balls.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
great. man.
that's exactly what I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
Sink or swim, I guess.
I was
whenever
never a
busting
comedian.
balls.
I'm a joke teller. And the reason I'm a joke teller is I like to make people laugh. And that's all I care about is making people laugh. If I go into deli and break Richie's balls or his father Joe's balls and get a good laugh out of them, I'm good. I feel as good as I did after I just killed 1,000 people in Boca. It's just a disease. But at some point you say, who cares? That's if it feels good, do it. You know how you feel when you masturbate.
Yeah, fantastic.
So let's backtrack a little bit. So you were invited onto the Howard Stern show. That connection you made with Howard, was it like instantaneous? Did you have to build a relationship with him? What was that like?
It was pretty scary. It was pretty scary how fast it was. I went in, and I always say the same stuff over and over. Hey, if you think these stories are any good at all, get my book, because if you like the story of the Stern Show, or if you like me, or if you like comedy, my autobiography is really, really fun. I guarantee you, It's called The Joke Man, Bow to Stern. You can't just put Bow to Stern in the Google because you'll get a seventh grade sailing manual.
Sure. You didn't think about that.
So, but if you go to JackieTheJokeman.com, that's a special URL, JackieTheJokeman.com, the Amazon page pops up, and you can order it. They're probably down to $3 a piece or whatever. And my 2 joke books, I sell the 2 of them for what? I'm selling them for like 2 for $40 autographed and everything. But
The first one was published when? Late 70s or 80s?
No. I had joke books in the very early 80s, but the first one was from 1998, Simon & Schuster, and that had a whole foreword by Howard, which is really fun. And the new joke book has the foreword by Penn Jillette.
That's the one with the ass on it.
Yeah.
Do you do any?
It's called The Ultimate Joke Book, and people said, what makes it the ultimate joke book? I said, well, it's all the jokes that weren't in the first one.
Do you do book signings?
Huh? Yeah, I do anything. She's like, go to
Gotta
your
do
house,
that,
I'll
right?
do your dishes. So
$5.
they called me to go in there, and it's funny because they said they listen to my records, and they love my records. And then over the course of the years, Howard's like, oh, we never listened to your records. We didn't care. You know, he downplayed everything good I ever did. But I went in there, and I love telling people, when I walked in, it was Howard and Robin and Fred. And the last day I worked on the show in March of 2001, it was Howard and Robin and Fred. And nobody stays together for 18 years like that. I mean, that's for a marriage, for a band, it was crazy. And what pissed me off is I'm the one that broke it up, but that's his fault for not sharing.
And they all met randomly in D.C., right?
Yeah, there's nothing. It was not random at all. Howard kind of went around choosing people like Dorothy.
I'm basing this on private parts.
On Dorothy. No. Howard met Fred in
Choosing people like Dorothy.
in The Wizard of Oz. But Howard met Fred in college in Connecticut. And then Fred used to call in and help him with the show when Howard was in Detroit. And they asked him to come to DC 101 in Washington, and he said he'd come if they'd hire the guy from Connecticut, and they said yes, so he brought in Fred. And then Denise Oliver, who was some newswoman, said, hey, I have this woman who would really be great on your show, and Robin was from Baltimore and brought her over, and then the 3 of them came north to NBC and called me, and then after a year or so, Gary came in as the coffee boy, producer, whatever you call it. And in 1986, John came in, and it got assembled, and it was such a perfect combination. As random as it sounds, it wouldn't have gotten that big if it wasn't such a perfect combination.
Sure.
And if you ask Howard, it's him. He could do the show in an elevator, but if you ask any human being, it was a amalgam of 4 or 5 wacky people, and when everybody's picking on each other and the backbiting, that was the show. That was what people really loved, So I went in there the first day, and I just, I got a good laugh. And I didn't even say a lot. I just sat there and laughed at everything. We were doing he called me up and said, do you want to come in and judge a talent contest we're holding over the phone? And I said, sounds good. So I went in there, and, people are pulling off the side of the road and standing in the rain on the phone booth singing Frank Sinatra songs. It was just stellar. So I'm breaking balls, and at the end of the day, they said, you know what, you're a lot of fun. You want to come back next week? I said, sure, because I'm at 30 Rock. I wasn't in Levittown at Governor's. I was in, WNBC, 50,000 watts, and I'm sure. And then after a week, I came in every week.
Unpaid, right?
Unpaid, 3 years. I worked for free.
Now, did you have a hand in the VHS tapes, like Butt Bongo and all that stuff? Did you help script that? Or
I was the head writer, but we weren't really in it. He never used. Fred's a great actor. We were not part of it except to write it.
What about the show on Channel 9?
Yeah, I was the head writer of that too.
Right. So it wasn't. I was telling Nick, because Nick's a little younger than I am. I remember the shows on Channel 9, and
do you know
and the VHS tapes.
They're all on YouTube. Every single. If you say, remember there was one with Bob Hope? You do Howard Stern, Channel 9, Bob Hope, the whole damn show's there.
And just random people taping them?
And I guess people, I don't know who uploaded them, but they're all there somehow or other.
Wow. All these jokes that you tell, is there like one joke that you love above all? Or
No. I always tell people my favorite joke is the last one I told that got a big laugh. I'll tell you, I always wanted to tell jokes with Paul McCartney because I know that he's a huge joke freak. And Noel Redding used to come on the show, and he was the bass player in the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And he'd come in and say, "Oh, we had such a good time last night, Jack. I was with Paul and Linda, and we had dinner, and then we told jokes for hours." And I'm like, "No, why don't you let me come play? I know I could bury McCartney." And I used to tell Howard, "Oh, McCartney would love me." He'd say, "You're an idiot. He'd hate you, blah, blah, blah." And then like last year or 2 years ago, whenever The Big Short came out, I was at a screening. And before there was a cocktail party, and it was a pretty highfalutin cocktail party. And Tina Fey was there and Lorne Michaels because they produced the movie.
Great movie.
And McCartney walks in with his wife. And my girlfriend Barbara's like, "There he is. You could tell him a joke." I said, "Listen, the reason people can go out in New York City, like Woody Allen, people like that, is because nobody bothers them. Nobody comes up, oh, you Woody, oh, Woody," you know. It's at that New York's hip, so you can walk around. I said, "I'm not going to bother the guy." And then McCartney walks around, and he walked right in front of my nose. I mean, right in front of my nose. And I stopped him, okay? And I told him a joke. So if you're asking I don't know what's my favorite joke, but I'll tell you a joke that came into my head. When
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I stopped him. And he looked at me and I said, "Can I tell you a joke?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "A guy goes for a job interview. And the job interviewer says, 'What do you think's your biggest fault?' And the guy says, 'I think my biggest fault is my honesty.' The interviewer says, I don't think honesty is a fault." The guy says, "I don't give a fuck what you think." And McCartney roared. He roared. But he didn't say, "Oh, I got one for you, mate." He walked away.
Is your heart racing during that? Are you nervous?
I was like, no, not. It was just fun, and it wasn't like, hey, if I ever meet McCartney, I know what joke. You know, it was not one of those things at all. I had no intention. Even when I saw him, it wasn't like, hey, if I get it wasn't going to happen. Yeah. But I mean, he walked in front of my nose, and his wife had walked a couple steps ahead of him.
You only live once.
You know, oh God, it was great.
You know a joke I want you to tell, if that's okay? One about the military veteran who had his balls blown off, and he applies for a state job. Please?
Were you in the military?
No, but my uncle told me this joke, and my girlfriend loves it. I want you to tell it.
A guy goes for a job, and he's a veteran, and they say, "You served in Vietnam?" He says, "Yes. I had my testicles blown off. I sat on a landmine." And the guy said, "Whoa." He says, "Well, you know, we like to hire veterans here, and we work 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So you're hired. You can come in at 10 o'clock. He says, "Well, if you work 9 to 5, why would I come in at 10 o'clock? He says, "Well, for the first hour, we just sit around and scratch our balls. No sense you come." That's a great joke. That is. Tell your uncle that's a great. Give me his address. I'll give you a joke book.
My uncle's a Nassau County worker. So was my grandfather. So they make it a county job joke. They say, "Well, this is a county job." So
you know how lesbians are like county workers?
No,
they don't do dick.
Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna tell him that for sure. That's awesome. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, that's a great joke. You sit around and scratch your nuts.
Yeah, I knew you would know it. Can't stump you, right?
Oh, I thought you were asking because you heard me tell that.
No.
Oh, you had no idea?
No, just my uncle told it to me. I knew you would know it. I know you know every joke that's ever been told. Where do jokes come from?
Nobody knows.
No one knows, right?
The abyss.
They're not like
you know. The thing is, I tell people like everything has been said before, and if you think, you know, since Adam and Eve, forever, there's been farts and poop and cum and sweat and vomit. If you think after thousands and thousands of years that you're coming up with something that nobody ever thought of before, that's kind of egotistical. Now, in any kind of form, you know, and there's every chance, like even Star Wars, somebody makes a joke about Star Wars, somebody on the other side of the planet can make the same joke because you put 2 and 2 together. That's how a joke is made. It's formulaic, you know, A and B, put them together and you got water, you know. So, you know, but there is, you know, you can look at somebody tell a joke and then go steal it, you know, but that's heinous. To me, if I'm on stage and I tell my version of a joke and it kills, and somebody verbatim takes it and tells it exactly like me, to me, that's as much stealing as anything.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
You know. But
You see that on social
we've sat around and every comic, we used to sit around for hours. And in my whole life, I've never met a comic, and a comic never met a comic, and a comic never had a friend who had a friend. Not one person knows anybody in their entire lives that ever claimed, I wrote the joke about Dirty Johnny and such and such.
Right.
Because they just evolved and evolved. The jokes that were about, Madonna, or the jokes about Cleopatra, and they were the jokes about, it's funny.
They just get replaced with.
There's a great joke that I have always loved, and I bombed with it so bad at the Don King roast, which was hosted by Donald Trump, believe it or not, and because it was too long for people to digest. You're at a roast; these businessmen are out there and they're drunk and they don't care. It's got 3 words, they're lost. But I bombed with the joke, but I love the joke, and I went to see a play. You know who George M. Cohan is? George M. Cohan was the Cohan brothers.
Coen brothers?
No, but George M. Cohan was a vaudeville guy, famous, Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Of course.
Jimmy,
Okay.
what's his face?
Crack Cohen?
Who's the actor? The actor with the pie in the face. James. Jesus, I'm so old. But George M. Cohan was a monster show business guy, and this guy wrote at George M. Cohan Tonight, which is a one-man show about the guy had a famous, storied career. He started the Friars Club. His brothers and sisters, they were all in an act, and then they dropped out, and he did his own show. And famous. So there's a one-man show about him. So I go to see the guy's play, and it's interesting. But it was funny, but there was only one joke in it. But it was that joke, my joke. And I'm like, not my joke, but the one that I really love. And I'm like, holy Christ, look at that. It's in the George M. Cohan play. And I turned to the guy, Chip, and I said, Chip, I can't believe George M. Cohan told that joke. I love that joke. He says, well, I got to tell you the truth. That's the one thing in the play that's not true. I really wanted to use the joke because that joke was told to me when I was a little kid by Carol Channing. Because Carol Channing, you know who that is?
Yeah, I know that name.
Carol Channing, Hello Dolly. She was a friend of the family. And she told him that joke when he was a little kid. And she told him that her grandmother told her the joke, like in 1910 or something. So this is the kind of longevity of the joke. And it's a classic. And the reason I used it in the Don King roast is because I used the fighter version of it, and it's just so great. It's 1958, and it's Madison Square Garden. It's a world championship bout, and the announcer comes out and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Madison Square Garden. In this corner, in the black trunks, weighing in at 220 pounds, from Sweden, the challenger, Ingemar Johansson." And in this corner, we have the champion of the world in the white trunks, weighing in at 215, Mr. Floyd Patterson. Before we begin the bout, we have to sing the national anthem, the lovely Kate Smith. And the guy sitting ringside goes, "Kate Smith? That fat whore? She sucked every cock on the East Coast." And the announcer goes, "Nevertheless." So that's the funniest joke in the world. But I bombed at the roast. But when I leaned over off mic and said, "Kate Smith, that fat whore," I was bent over. I was looking right into the eyes of Dionne Warwick. Now you probably don't even know who that is. So what the hell? So fun. So in the middle of this play, George M. Cohan goes, "And now Mary McDonald's going to dance for you." And somebody yells, "Mary McDonald's a whore!" Nevertheless, which is just a funny joke. Funny joke. So I was just giving you an idea of who knows how long, the trail and the trail and the trail, It's just reversals and silliness,
So let's go back to the timeline a little bit. So 3 years unpaid doing jokes for the Howard Stern show. So what happened after that?
Nick's still unpaid, so he's trying to figure out how to get paid.
How do you get paid in this industry?
What happened was I finagled my way. I tried to render myself necessary. There was no plan. It wasn't like, hey, let me pass some notes and maybe, you know. I'm like an all for one guy. Like not to sound, you know, too. I'm not trying to self-aggrandize, but we're sitting there, and if I can make the show funnier, I want to make the show funnier. And if I sit there and start saying funny things, I'm not going to be that welcome. You know, it's a trick. So I'd hand him things slowly but surely, and it's nice. You know, I had his back. You know, he always had after a certain amount of time, he could go a long time without even looking at a note. But if you just know that the haymaker is sitting there, that's nice, you know, and boom. Sometimes you'd look at something, circle around, come back to it. Sometimes he'd read it and make it about Fred instead of about me, or make it about me and say, you know, Howard, it couldn't work with somebody that's not as brilliant as
right.
him.
That's what I was good.
Because as he's going along, he's digesting what I wrote and making it's seamless. That's why nobody could tell I was doing it. And but sometimes he would just read it. He'd just look down and he just really trusted
come out
me.
with it?
Just boom, boom, boom. And it was.
Did he ever
That had to
blow one of
take-
your jokes or no?
Yeah, did he force? I'm sure every once in a while he forced some stuff.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. So yeah, occasionally he'd misread something, and it'd be so hysterical. And sometimes I'd be breaking balls, and I just draw like a cartoon of Gary's face with these big lips and put it down. And he'd like crack up, and Robin says, "What? They idiots drawing pictures?" You know, it was so.
Yeah,
fun.
that had to be such a skill to take these jokes and somehow weave them in seamlessly into a conversation.
He was so good.
I cannot imagine.
So good. You know,
Yeah, and I always wondered how that worked because you watch Conan O'Brien. These are monologues. These are scripted jokes, one into the next. But I always had trouble understanding how you were his joke writer.
I have every note I ever wrote for him that he said is in my mother's attic.
Is that right?
Every note.
Oh shit.
Moms keep everything.
And I have all the handwritten scripts to all the bits I got, because everything was going in the
Wow.
garbage. And I said, no,
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
this with me. I got some great stuff. I got some great stuff.
Our mother's known to throw out stuff in the
Yeah,
attic.
my-
I feel like that's the most dangerous place for it.
No, my parent has my
Baseball
my
cards.
first Power Rangers doll I've ever had.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
You called it a doll?
Actually,
No,
Isn't
that's
that
funny. You know,
sacrilege?
there are literally boxes and boxes and boxes. If you said, you know what, something really funny that Howard said to James Brown on August 23rd, 1994, I literally could find that box. I mean, they're not that but they're organized by
enough.
Yeah, so I could find that month and find that day, and you know, if you just listen to, you know, August 1st, 1998, and just put on the show, you could sit there and follow along the notes, and sure enough, when the big laughs came, you know,
Wow. So you knew,
I'm sure they'd be very valuable. I never
Yeah.
tried to sell them, or you know.
it has to be some worth somewhere there.
Yeah, or even
It's
in a
fun.
museum somewhere, comedian.
And there's so many. You know, I start looking through. There's like, you know, there's like autographs from this guy and that guy, and you know, what was like? There was like a page, a 1-page sketch by what's his name? You know, Leroy Neiman, and you know, I got all kinds of crazy crap. And I found the pages of the private parts that featured me that never made it into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Stump the Joke Man was actually in the first draft of Private Parts, and of course that went away very fast.
Private Parts came out in 98? They're the same. When did Private Parts come out? 98? 97?
97, 98, I'm not sure.
There was about a year there where that's all Howard talked about was this show. A lot of people started tuning out. Like, I can't hear about this movie
Every time we had like a new thing like Butt Bongo Fiesta or a pay-per-view, everybody's like, oh Christ, he's never going to shut up about it. Never gonna shut up.
The movie is all he talked about for a year and a half. It was a great movie. I liked the movie. What did you think of the movie?
I loved it. You know, I mean, it was. I'll tell you, I was barely in it. I wasn't going to be in it because they wrote a script that did not have me in it, and they threw that out. And Howard said, "Look, we're going to start over because I didn't like the script they had. It didn't use all my guys." Meanwhile, he's the one that created it, but he didn't want anybody sitting there. They were watching the screen, seeing somebody feeding them notes, because that was our key to going to Pluto. That was the key. It was like Mickey Mantle had 2 extra people helping him hit.
Right,
You know, not that he's not brilliant and funny, but that extra push. If you're a world-class sprinter and you got a tiny bit of wind in your back, all of a sudden you're the world record of all
Right,
time,
that's a great
right?
analogy, yeah.
So they figured out how to do it without showing me make notes. And it looked, the way the movie was, it looked like they were already had gone to the moon, and I stepped in.
Yeah.
And I joined them after they'd already hit the big time.
Exactly.
If he had held up my records and said, Robin, we got a new guy on the show today. Look, he sent me his records. I would have gone. That would have put me over to the moon.
Was that hurtful, Jackie?
Huh?
Was that hurtful?
You know, it was all par for everything. You know, like what could you do? You know, I was so thrilled to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So thrilled, you know, because they started over, and it's so funny because the first day we met with Ivan Reitman and his producer Danny Goldberg, and the writer Len Bloom, and we all sat around and they said, "All right, for these guys, you guys all got to introduce yourselves and say a little about yourself and where you're from, maybe tell a story." So they get to me. My name's Jackie Martling, and I've been on the show for 15 years and passing Howard notes, and it's a great gig. And then I told a story about I was coming from Chuckles, and I had gotten so drunk, like I always did, and it was a Thursday night, and I got really loaded, and I spent the night in a motel, even though I live in Bayville, because rather than go all the way back to Bayville at 1 a.m. after I'm drunk and then have to leave, you know, why not come right from Mineola? And I'm so hungover, and I'm an expressway, and I'm late, and I get a flat tire. Now, at the time, this wouldn't happen now because the Cross Island Parkway, the on and off ramps are different now. This is like 1988 or something like that. And I get a flat tire just as I'm getting to where the Cross Island crosses over the expressway. And it's frightening. It's like 5:45, and with every passing second, there's more traffic, and it's insane. And I hobble along, and I'm like, what am I? And I figure I got to keep going. And I went and somehow got over the on-ramp from the Cross Island and onto the grass on the right-hand side, just west of the Cross Island. And I call up, and I said, Nancy, that you know, Volvo's not answering. What the hell am I going to do? I got a flat tire, and I don't have a jack. Somehow I changed my tire and wound up without a jack, and I'm like, holy Christ. So I call the show, and Gary, hello? I said, Gary, listen, I got a flat tire. I'm screwed here. He said, hold on. How is this going on there? I'll put you on. And it's like 6 o'clock, and Howard says, hey, you know, joke man's screwing up. He's screwing up. He's late again. Hello? And I said, Howard, you know, I got a flat tire. You know, I was coming on the expressway. I got a flat tire, and I'm pulled off here on the side of the road, just on the other side of the cross line. By the end of the sentence, there were like 5 cars pulled off the road. They said, get out of the car. They took out the spare. Somebody had a jack. They changed the spare like it was a pit stop, and then they went out and stood there and stopped traffic so I could pull back onto the expressway. So I went from being so freaked out and so depressed, and 5 minutes later, I'm on the expressway on my way to work. It was like unbelievable. Awesome. And Len Bloom comes over to me and goes, that's the greatest, that story is going to play so great in the movie, holy Christ. I said, Len, you don't understand this show. That will never make it near the movies. What are you talking about? It shows the power of Howard. It's all about Howard. I said, I know that, but it's too much Jackie. Trust me. You know, trust me. And never, ever saw the light of day. And I said, by the way, I got tapes of my first times on the show. I gave him the tapes the first times on the show, and he listened to the Stump the Joke Man. He said, this is fantastic, and he put it in the script, and boom. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody just, hey, I got the script. You want to see it? And surreptitiously, I got a copy of the script. So, but that's all. The bottom line is I was thrilled to be in a movie. You know? Yeah. So, what do you do?
It's a great movie. You should watch it, Nick, though. Whenever
you
it's
never
on,
saw it, you ass?
Nah, I haven't.
This guy's in radio, too.
That's good.
Jackie, what's a day in the life of Jackie Martling look like today?
A couple of jerks with a radio show will come over.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
No, like yesterday, like on Mondays, I talk to David Feldman, who has an incredible podcast, and I tell him 10 or 15 minutes of the world's most disgusting jokes. And then it gets posted on Monday night, and then Tuesday I spend the day editing it and then send it around to all my friends, and all people just go nuts.
I saw the Feldman logs over here.
Yeah, and I got like 45 phone calls to this guy with no repeated jokes, and they're frighteningly dirty or frighteningly funny, and he goes nuts. And it's a liberal, smart, high-level podcast. Really smart people listen. Smart people are on the show, and they all love it. But they love the very end. It's like, David says, "All right, everybody, you have to eat your vegetables if you want, and then you can stick around and hear the jokes." So that I do that, and I worked in Boca on Saturday. I had a sold-out show at the Meisner Theater in Boca.
That's awesome.
And I got a couple private parties in the next couple months, in the next couple of weeks, rather than I got.
What do you work the Gold Coast here?
Anywhere. And February 9th, I'm working at the Central Stage in Yonkers, and 22nd, 23rd at Uncle Vinny's Comedy Club down in Point Pleasant, and I'm also on the radio every Friday. I go in and sit in with Sid and Bernie and Sid, who have Don Imus's old spot on WABC. AM 770. So I go in there, I sit there and fool around for a few minutes, and then tell like 5 disgusting jokes, as dirty as you can get for terrestrial, and then people use them all weekend, and it's one of the most popular things on this show. So that's it. That I piddle them. They're working on a documentary on me, so I go in and they piddle with that. And
So you're a busy man.
Who's they?
I'm not IKA Productions, which is my old radio partner, Ian Carr. And
Let us know when that comes out.
Yeah. We're gonna add
Your
Those
mouth to God's ears.
This podcast will be in the documentary.
Documentaries, yeah, they take a while.
But always different stuff. Like I piddle, and it's just fun. Things just come along. They just come along, and you never know. I'm talking to this guy about, this big company's thinking about making a comedy section, but you don't put your eggs in any basket, but they talk to you. I've been around forever. I've been getting, I did the Comedy Cellar podcast a few times, so I think I'm going to go out and do their club in Las Vegas, which is fun.
Wow.
And
Sounds like a lot of fun.
yeah, and I do some private parties, and it's fun. I haven't had a drink in almost 18 years, and I don't even smoke pot anymore for the last 4 months. I don't even know why I stopped. I think I'm so old I forgot. And I go to the movies, and I forget to masturbate.
At the movies?
Now, our sales guy Nick wanted to ask you about the beer platform out in the Sound or something. Before we wrap this up,
It's so funny. I was just talking to somebody because it's a black joke. Because on the Stern Show, Robin referred to it as the jetty. But anybody knows anything about the water, the jetty is a pile of rocks going out into the sea to block the water. Yeah. And what it was a wooden float. And she called it the jetty, which is hysterical every time. It's like a black people can't swim reference. And when there was the horrible storm of 1992,
the perfect storm,
we lost a couple $100,000 and stuff, but a piece of a dock slip came up that was like 4 by 20, and I said, all right, that's what I get out of this. So I put a ladder on it and an anchor, and people swam out to it for a couple of years, and then one year it just disappeared. It was gone. That's a great story. It was a little dock slip. It was like 4 or 5 feet wide by 20 feet long. Like if you go down to the marina, okay, and then you look at the boats are there, and between the boats is a dock slip that you walk out on to get on the boat. And one of those got loose, either in Montauk or Connecticut, and it rolled up. So I got this ladder on the thing. And I used to go down and look at it because I get a kick out of it. I go down and smoke a joint and look out at my stupid thing. And the winter came. And the sound froze, which is unheard of. Maybe 91, whatever year it was, but the sound froze, which is so rare. Then when it thawed like an iceberg, so it went back out to sea in huge sheets. So the huge sheet that broke off that had my dock had my float in it, just went where it was going to go. You know, there's a 200-pound anchor on it and a ladder. It didn't matter. It just, so I go down there and I look, and my dock's not, and my float's not there. I'm like, damn. So I go into work the next day. This is a true story. And I said, Howard, I need the microphone. He goes, why? I said, just let me talk. And I said, listen, my float disappeared. I don't know what happened to it, but anybody in Bayville, if a float washes up with a ladder on it, please call the show. That's my float. And they're making fun of me. What an idiot. You're a jerk. What a moron. 5 minutes later, Gary comes to say, Howard, the Nassau County police boat's on the phone. They were out on the Sound in the police boat. There's nothing on the water in the winter. And they got their binoculars, and they see the stupid ladder sticking up. And they went out and they towed it to the Oyster Bay dock, and they saved it for me until the spring. I went over to get it. I gave them cassettes of my act and gave them dirty T-shirts, and then they became it was the greatest thing in the world.
Man,
and nobody could believe it. Then the thing did disappear for good in one of the storms. I guess in the storm of '92, not '92, but another storm. So my wife at the time commissioned a float to be made, like 10 by 15, and the guy who you can Google this. The guy who made the float was Bruce Springsteen's first manager. His name's Carl Tinker West, and he made the float. And he also made, if you look out there, there's a big metal bin that cooks 200 lobsters at the same time.
Nice.
And so I had that float for years and years, and people loved it. And I'd had the big parties here, and we'd all swim out to it, and it was so much fun. And they used to break my balls about Jackie's stupid piece of wood. That's what the friends talk about. Jackie's stupid piece of wood. Howard would make fun of my parties. I'd serve lobster to 150 people, and then tell everybody how cheap I was. You know, that was my hell.
Man,
but
cool.
that was fun. And then that float.
Floated away as well?
Sandy demolished it. Demolished it.
It's had it for a while.
You know, so that was that. But that was it was. People still write to me and say, "Hey, we need some jetty stories. We need some," because we'd be out there.
I'm
you know, the guy
A
out
lot
there
of
in a
fodder out
tuxedo
there, right?
serving shots and smoking joints. It was just great.
You got
great,
pictures of days from those days?
Of course.
Very cool.
So this is obviously a Long Island podcast. So let's talk a little bit about your connection to Long Island. So where did you grow? Did you grow up in Bayville, or where are you from?
Well,
Mineola,
it's
right?
kind of staggering. I lived in East Norwich my entire life, which is just south of Oyster Bay, which is just south of Bayville. East Norwich is the crossroads of 106 and 25A, and my great-great-grandfather owned the farm that's now Muttontown Preserve in East Norwich, and he came here in 1850.
Wow. I thought everyone came from Brooklyn and Queens.
No, and well, Johann, I'm not making this up, Johann Martling came to Staten Island in 1675, okay? And my grandmother, Dorothy Hall, her father ran Sagamore Hill. And the rumor is that he was the illegitimate half-brother of Theodore Roosevelt. That's the first chapter of my book.
Wow.
And we haven't proved it yet, but with DNA, it'd be so easily proved because he's running Sagamore Hill, and he had 8 kids, and my grandmother was the oldest, and the youngest was a guy named Leonard W. Hall, who was the National Republican chairman, and he was Eisenhower's campaign manager in 52 and 56. So they've been here, so we are so rooted in Oyster Bay. My house in East Norwich when I was growing up, there's a blacksmith barn on the corner of my home, on the property. And it wasn't from generations past. My grandfather, my father's father, was a blacksmith. And his father was a blacksmith, and his father, and you think, why would there be so many blacksmiths? It was like gas stations. Before there were cars, that's how you got around. You rode a horse, and they needed shoes.
Yeah.
It was like crazy. So we've been here forever and ever and ever and ever. Now, why we're not rich, I have no idea. Everybody else on the North Shore is rich.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
you came
think
in
that's all money.
1675. Put your arm around something and claim it, you moron. Jesus Christ.
And then you didn't go to school for jokes. You were an engineer, right?
I graduated from Michigan State University in 1971 as a mechanical engineer, and I used my diploma to roll pot. And that's
The
a true
best
story.
joints you'll ever smoke.
It was,
The most expensive joint you ever smoked.
and I played music for the entire 70s with a ponytail. We got drunk, we got stoned, we got laid, made no money. Everybody loved us, but we were horrible. And then when the band broke up, I said, what am I going to do? I know every joke in the world. Why don't I try telling them on stage? It's funny. In the mid-70s, we had this band. It was me and another guy, and we played guitar. The Off-Hour Rockers. And people loved us. And we played songs, original songs. I don't know if you ever heard Howard used to play the pot song, Roll Up the Reefer. That was from that band, okay? So we played songs and told jokes. Now, if you tell jokes on stage or people know you tell jokes, they want to tell you a joke. In the 70s, in the mid-70s, what is that, 40 years ago? People come up to me on the break and say, hey, I got a joke for you, just like you just,
Yeah.
And I'd say, all right, I'm going to count down from 10, and when I get to 0, if I don't know the joke, I'll buy you a beer. I never bought anybody a beer. That was 40 or 50 years ago. I already knew this. I got so where a guy said, so an Indian and a priest are going down a river in a canoe. In 5 seconds, I go, you know what? This is the one about the two sailors on the desert. You know what I mean? I saw the parallels, and it was
Where did you acquire all this information?
years
What, were
and
you in your
years
20s?
and years and years of being the last guy standing at every party, at every bar. I just have always enjoyed making people laugh,
Yeah.
and I don't know why, but that's
Wow.
that's the hole in my soul, or that's the beauty in my soul, whatever. My mother was funny, my father was funny, everybody in my family's way funnier than me, so I think I just tried harder. And I love it, you know. I want somebody to laugh like I just punched them in the stomach. You know, people say, "Oh, you're dirty." I'm dirty because that's what's funny. A dirty joke gets a bigger laugh than a clean joke. I fight with my girlfriend about that all the time. But you know, that's sex and poop and farts that sets up more tension. You know, and
Well,
tension
you
is where
want-
the laughs come from.
You want to wrap this up with a dirty joke? Do you want to plug anything before
I'll tell you,
do that?
I'll tell you, the greatest joke that anybody ever told me. Yeah, I'm going to be at Central Stage in Yonkers on February 9th, and Uncle Vinny's Comedy Club in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, 22nd, 23rd of February. But I work every year. I just worked at the brokerage. It was sold out. It was great. And I work at McGuire's. No, I just worked at McGuire's. I work at the brokerage every June or July. It's the greatest show of the year for me. So come out. I don't have the date yet, but the brokerage. I started the brokerage 30 years ago, and it's a great place. And then I worked McGuire's at Christmas time and other assorted shows. You know, I haven't worked my father's place yet. You guys don't know the history of that place.
No.
Or anything. No. That's a place from the 70s that's opened up again, which is great. But Yonkers isn't too far, but come out to a show because it's really fun. So I know every joke in the world, but you don't. They slip through the cracks. I mean, you could tell me why the chicken crossed the road, and I'll go, oh, I used to know that one. You know, because it's endless. And for the most part, I know them or can figure them out, but there's ones that slip through the cracks. And I was at the Iridium in Manhattan, and I just got done working with Mark, what's his name? I forget it. The Mark Hudson, him and his brothers had a show in the 70s. Great, crazy, funny people. And I just killed the people, and the place is so jammed. I get off, and a guy comes up and says, Jackie, I love you, man. 40 years I've been following you. He says, I have a joke. I'm sure you heard it, but I got to try it on you. I said, listen, I always say the same thing. Tell me, because you never know. You never know. That's how I get them. You know, after you know every joke in the world, that's when you really got to listen to every joke. And sometimes people tell you something that's not even a little bit funny, but you see the germ that I can make that funny, right? And this guy tells me this joke, and I fell down. And he said, you don't have to fake it. I said, he told me a joke in the middle of I'm walking off stage. I said, no, I never heard that. That's classic. And maybe I'd heard it somewhere along the line, but it didn't strike me. The beauty of it is It's so filthy that I don't use it on stage because it shakes people up. I can't slow them up. I can't say Jesus Christ jokes. And, I don't care about religion or offensive stuff, but you don't want to say anything that's going to slow up the show. And if people stop and start thinking, that throws it off. So I don't use this, but what's going on?
Someone's phone's going off?
Is that your phone?
You jerk.
Is it my phone?
I think it's the phone here.
Is it my phone?
No. That's your ring?
No, I don't think so. I have used on.
Sounds like a spa.
I'm in the middle of a story. Would that be my phone?
That slows things.
I think it's
up.
this.
Is it mine?
It's a very pleasant sounding ring.
You guys are real professionals.
Why don't you turn
Alexa,
the phone off?
these guys are assholes. So this guy tells me this joke, but the beauty of this joke is it's too dirty for me to use on stage, but I can tell it on terrestrial radio. I can tell it on radio clean, and you can tell it to a 5-year-old kid. But it's too disgusting to use on stage.
How does that work out?
Are we going to get it or are we going to get it on the way home?
A girl calls the doctor and she says, "Doc, I have diarrhea. Can I take a bath?" And he says, "If you have enough." Which is so disgusting. If you tell people like, oh, and they miss the next joke,
That was awesome.
That's great.
All right, so listen, if you like jokes, every day I tweet jokes at 420 International Marijuana Time at Jackie Martling, JackieMartling. Always fun jokes. Tune in. I'm on with Bernie and Sid, 9:30 every Friday on 77 WABC, Tri-State Area Radio in Manhattan. Also, and this has helped me so much. There's people, I got fans now that don't even hardly know about the Stern Show. If you say, "Alexa, play Jackie Martling,"
Which he's turning on right now.
Shuffling songs by Jackie Martling on Amazon Music.
it'll tell Alexa, stop. Alexa will tell dirty jokes for hours.
Wow.
She might sprinkle in Chris Rock, Sam Kinison, Rodney.
Right, it's a mix.
But it's mainly me, and people say I listen to it.
That's fantastic.
Also, if you go on Pandora, type in Jackie Martling. If you go on Spotify, type in Jackie Martling. You go on Apple Music. Endless jokes, and I've got 6 CDs in there, which are 80 minutes each. That's 5. However many hours. I got 5 hours or 7 hours.
It's good for a long road trip.
Impress your friends at the next cocktail party, right?
People say, yeah, I just say, Alexa, play Jackie Martling. I listen to a couple jokes. I go to the bar. And,
Right.
It's
Awesome. Awesome.
which is the entire reason I do it. I didn't write these. I didn't set out to get rich, and it's working out. I love sharing them, and that's how it works. And now with this thing, it's ridiculous. Yeah. The whole world is hearing and there's so many of them, so dirty. Somebody can say, "Alexa, play Jackie Martling," and it'll be a nice joke. Oh, I can't wait to show my parents. Hey, Alexa, play Jackie Martling. So 2 whores are eating each other's pussies. Oh, Daddy. So who knows?
Jackie, thank you for sharing your time with us. Really.
And thank you for allowing us to come to your home here on the water.
Thank you for torturing me with the food.
We'll leave it here. We'll let it stare at you all day.
Maybe I can go trade it for soup.
Well, thanks again. This is the 495 Podcast with your hosts, Michael White, Nick Esposito, Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
Thank you. Thank you, boys. Thank you, boys. What's that noise? Oh, is that your theme song?
No, that's your Alexa.
Alexa, stop! Moron.
All right, we're out.
Alexa, you're a whore. That's not nice. I'm smoking pot. I got my dick out. And I'm thinking about you. And I'm thinking about you. I'm smoking pot. I got my dick out. And I'm thinking about you. Just you.
I'm smoking pot. I got my dick out.